All right, we're going to start here in a minute. If everybody can find a seat. It's better to do this up front. If you have a cell phone, I'm going to ask that you put your cell phone on silent or vibrate so that it doesn't disrupt the proceeding. Okay, let's go on the record. And you'll have to bear with me. I'm just slightly shorter than this microphone stand works out to be. Okay, good afternoon. It's March 7th of 2023, and the current time is 12:02 p.m. The Missouri Public Service Commission has set aside this time for a local public hearing to give members of the public an opportunity to comment about the application in file number EA-2023-0017, which is captioned as in the matter of the application of Grainbelt Express LLC for an amendment to its Certificate of Convenience and Necessity, authorizing it to construct, own, operate, control, manage, and maintain a high-voltage direct current transmission line and associated converter station. Now, the Missouri Public Service Commission regulates investor-owned utilities companies in Missouri to ensure that rates are just and reasonable. The Commission also regulates the quality of service and safety of operations of investor-owned utilities. Now, the Commission is made up of 5 commissioners: Chairman Scott Roop to my immediate left, and Commissioners Maida Coleman, Jason Holzman, and Glenn Kolkmeyer to my right. The commissioners are appointed by the governor to a fixed term and are confirmed by the Senate. The commission employs a staff of engineers, accountants, attorneys, financial analysts, and other experts in the field of utility regulation. My name is John Clark. I am not a commissioner. I am the regulatory judge overseeing this hearing today. I said there were 5 commissioners. 1 commission seat is currently vacant. Now, this is an official hearing of the Missouri Public Service Commission, and the statements and testimony of witnesses will be recorded by the court reporter and must be given under oath or affirmation. The commission has not made any decisions in this case, and neither the commissioners nor myself can answer any questions about the issues of this case today because the commission has to remain impartial until after all the evidence is presented, and that would be inclusive of the evidentiary hearing. Now, the court reporter over here is transcribing this hearing so that the commission may review the comments later. At this time, I'm going to, Chairman, would you like to make any remarks?
Sure. Great. Thank you guys for coming out today. It is always great to see a very engaged public whenever we have to deal with issues, and great attendance at the local public hearing. We do encourage you to come up and speak and just let us know your thoughts and just be candid and stuff, and it will be transpired for us to go back and review later in the case. One thing that the judge did say, which always warrants repeating, is that we are unable to answer any questions or to respond to any comments that you might make. It would be akin to if you were in a courtroom during a murder trial and you couldn't just raise your hand and say, "Hey, Judge, what do you think of that piece of evidence?" They couldn't respond because it would jeopardize the case, and one side would try for a mistrial and things. So even though we are sitting here, it is not because we're stoic, it's not because we're obtuse, it's because we literally cannot respond to anything that you say. We are here to listen and to take this as part of evidence for an eventual trial that will happen in Jefferson City. So that being said, I know that the fellow commissioners we're always pleased when we see a great turnout, because this does help us give more information on to make the best decision for each case that we are provided. So thank you in advance for your time and attention here today.
Thank you, Chairman. At this time, I'm going to ask the parties to enter their appearance for the record, starting with the Commission's staff.
Scott Stacy, Staff Counsel, 200 Madison Street, Jefferson City, Missouri, 65101.
Thank you, Mr. Stacy. On behalf of the Office of the Public Counsel.
Mark Poston, appearing for the Office of the Public Counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Poston. On behalf of Grainbelt Express LLC.
Andrew Schulte with the Polsonelli Law Firm on behalf of Grainbelt Express LLC. Also making an appearance today is Sean Pluta, also with the Polsonelli Law Firm, and the court reporter has our information.
Thank you so much. And where's Mr. Pluta? Thank you. Now, there's a number of interveners in this case. I know we have some interveners present. Mr. Agathan?
Thank you, Judge. I'm representing, my name is Paul Agathan. I'm from Washington, Missouri, and I'm representing the Missouri Landowners Alliance, the Eastern Missouri Landowners Alliance, doing business as Show Me Concerned Landowners, Mr. Norman Fischel, Gary and Carol Riedel, R-I-E-D-E-L, and Dustin Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Agathan. Are there any other interveners present I haven't called?
Yes, sir. My name is William W. Hollander, and I'm your wife for intervener in my address.
Are you an attorney, or are you just?
Yes, sir. I didn't wear the uniform.
No, that's fine. I have to ask.
Yeah, my address is 1114 South of Police Station Road, St. Louis, Missouri, 63119. You're in the process.
Okay, thank you. And who did you say you were representing?
Myself and my wife, Amy.
Okay, thank you.
You have the man in the pad, and I understand being in the pad.
We also motion to intervene David and Patricia Stimmey of 12601 East Reeder Road, Centralia, Missouri.
Now, when you say you have a motion to intervene, has that been ruled on yet?
Yes, we're on the list.
Okay, and that may be, I'm sorry, say your name again, please.
It's David and Patricia Stimmey.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other counsel here for interveners? Okay, for those who would like to provide comments today, for the most part, with a few exceptions, because there were a couple people who indicated that they had other places to be that were with some urgency, I'm going to call the names on the sign-up sheet in the order they appear. Now, when I call your name, please come up to the microphone. I'll place you under oath and ask you to state and spell your name so that the court reporter gets it. After that, you can then offer your comments to the commission. Now, there's a number of people here, and I'm now to my fourth sign-up sheet. So that everybody gets an opportunity to speak, I'm going to ask that you keep your comments to less than 5 minutes. If you start to go long, there's a good chance that I will cut you off. So please keep your comments succinct and to the point. Now, after you've offered your comments, please remain at the microphone for just a beat or two. The commissioners may have questions for you. I may have a question for you, or the attorneys may have a question for you. If any of the attorneys have questions, please raise your hand and get my attention. The commissioners, feel free to interrupt me at any time with your questions, and I will pass the microphone over. Okay, I will call the first witness, and forgive me, if I butcher your name, please correct me. Marilyn O'Banner?
You pronounced it correctly. I'm sorry about my voice today.
Would you please state and spell your name for the record?
Marilyn O'Bannon. Do you want that spelled M-A-R-I-L-Y-N, capital O, apostrophe, capital B, A-N-N-O-N.
And would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
Yes.
And what would you like to tell the commission?
Sure. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the Missouri Public Service Commission. My name is Marilyn O'Bannon from Monroe County. My family and I are landowners on the proposed Grainbelt Express route in Monroe County and have farms near the Tiger Connector Spur in Authorizing County. In fact, one of our farms impacted by the line in Monroe County has won a category in the Missouri Corn Growers Contest 2 different times, and one is this year. I oppose the Greenbelt Express project and their amended application. Phase 1 of the Greenbelt Express will place the converter station approximately 1/2 mile from my home. Greenbelt will tell you they have a large percentage of easements needed for the project that they have secured voluntary, but I argue the majority were because of the threat of eminent domain and potential condemnation lawsuits. GBE cannot build any wind turbines in Kansas until the project is approved in Illinois. However, they are working and even pressuring landowners to sign easements. One Amish family told me the land agent said if they didn't sign the easement agreement, they would go to court and not get paid anything. It concerns me that Greenbelt is focused on easements before knowing if they can even build the project or have the financial capability. In the order of the original CCN case, the PSC granted Greenbelt's application with certain conditions. One condition was that Greenbelt was not permitted to install transmission facilities on easement property in Missouri until obtaining commitments for financing of the project in an amount equal to or greater than the total cost to build the entire multi-state transmission project. In mid-December 2022, Greenbelt applied for a federal guaranteed loan from the Department of Energy to finance their project, and during the EIS public hearing had information stated they anticipated approval of Tiger Connector by the PSC. In mid-February of this year, contract land staff started knocking on landowners' doors, offering a $599.99 incentive to obtain agreements to survey land. The explanation was that Greenbelt is wanting to expedite the project. The project has not been approved yet. Merchant transmission, like Greenbelt Express, is an unregulated, voluntary, speculative venture for private profit purpose. It is not needed for regional reliability or economics. Merchant can cancel its project at any time. Also, because Greenbelt rates are unregulated, there is nothing requiring the merchant to put the easements it has acquired into public service. Granting eminent domain authority to unregulated merchants for speculative projects that may never be placed in service violates the requirement that property be taken for public use. I'm going to end my comments at this point, and I appreciate the PSC being here today. I would respectfully ask that the Missouri PSC deny this project. It is not for the public good. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. May you come, thank you. Ms. O'Bannon, would you come back to the microphone? One of the commissioners has a question for you.
You did tell us to stay. I'm sorry.
Mrs. O'Banion, did you testify last night?
Yes, I did, and some of those notes are the same as last night.
Okay.
Thank you for asking. I did add a couple of things in there
Okay.
that weren't in last night's.
Thank you. Ms. O'Bannon, after listening to your testimony last night, I was left with a question
Okay.
that I did not get to ask. I wanted to mull over it a little. It was your comment regarding an Amish family that you feel, or who has expressed that they felt threatened, I guess. Is that something that you are hearing from multiple people, or just in specific part of the pathway that has been proposed?
Well, it's mainly the Amish community. You have to understand their ability to, well, first of all, with their religious beliefs, you know, going to court would be something that would be against their beliefs. And not understanding, maybe, the court system or their rights. I think they felt that when they were threatened with either you sign this piece of paper or you'll go to court and get nothing, they did not question.
So are you saying then that the people that you know of or this person did indeed sign the document?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
And do you
But he
know-
said, I'm against the project, but, you know, I also don't want it being on my farm and not receive anything at all for the easement. He didn't understand that even by going to court, that he would be compensated.
Thank you, Ms. O'Bannon.
I
Thank
hope I
you.
answered your
Sure.
question.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Garrett Hawkins? Would you please state and spell your name for the record?
You bet. Garrett Hawkins, Garrett
And would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
Yes.
And what would you like to tell us today?
All right. Commissioners and staff, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Garrett Hawkins, and I serve as president of the Missouri Farm Bureau. I'm a fifth-generation farmer from Appleton City, Missouri. Today, I'm testifying on behalf of Missouri Farm Bureau, Missouri Cattlemen's Association, Missouri Corn Growers Association, Missouri Pork Association, and Missouri Soybean Association. Together, we oppose the Grain Belt Express Wind Energy Project because of its private, out-of-state merchant transmission line business structure and its use of eminent domain to condemn private property. Grain Belt's primary purpose is not to serve Missouri customers, but rather drop a portion of electricity in our state en route to lucrative East Coast markets. Together, our organization's members fervently believe in the protection of private property rights, and the negative experiences of many landowners impacted by GBE was the primary reason we fought for and secured stronger eminent domain standards for electrical transmission projects during the 2022 legislative session. We stand opposed to Grain Belt seeking of an amended certificate of convenience and necessity because we believe its proposed Tiger Connector line is a new project. The PSC should not simply amend its prior approval for Grain Belt's high voltage direct current main line. Tiger Connector should stand on its own and should be scrutinized as the new project that it clearly is. Over the past decade, Grain Belt's project has continued to evolve. The debut of the Tiger Connector highlights the fact that there was not a well-vetted plan, and this latest evolution shows they are changing course to attempt to find an end user. We feel strongly that this new project should be scrutinized as such. Tiger Connector proposes to take private property to build a for-profit project controlled by an out-of-state company that has no plan or provision to share profits with the landowners who will house its infrastructure on their property. This is a major distinction from wind and solar projects in Missouri, which to date have only engaged in voluntary leasing that creates annual and ongoing payments and definitive termination points. The bottom line is landowners are forced to sell their land at a time and to a buyer, not of their choosing, to forever host a line that they don't want, with no share of the profits generated. This is a classic abuse of eminent domain, the use of governmental authority to coerce property owners for the benefit of private enterprise. In Grain Belt's calculations involving its main line, it grossly failed to take into account the physical and practical inability of ag equipment to operate within specific distances of towers and other infrastructure that the project will require when it claimed that only 9 acres will be taken out of production. We urge the PSC to deny approval for this line. If it does not, it must require that the impacts to landowners are minimized through co-location with other utilities and public right-of-way where feasible, along with appropriate compensation. We also recommend that the PSC require Grain Belt to prioritize returning disturbed farmland to its full productive capability after construction. Lastly, Missouri's ag organizations are severely disappointed in the PSC's refusal to set in-person meetings in all 3 affected counties. We requested these, and Grain Belt Express agreed, because we believe it's critical that landowners have full access to deliver in-person comments to you, the PSC. In the future, We hope the PSC will ensure adequate, fair, and thorough in-person hearings for landowners who bear the full burden of projects such as this. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, not only on behalf of Farm Bureau, but the other organizations.
Thank you. And just as thank you. And just as a point of clarification, you listed quite a number of organizations there. Some of those organizations you mentioned seem familiar. Are some of them interveners in this case?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for your comments.
Okay. Thank you.
Ron Henk.
Hello,
Mr. Henk, would you please, and did I say your name right?
it's Hanky.
Henke. Mr. Henke, would you please state and spell your name for the court reporter?
Ron Hanky, Ronhenke, from Sheraton County, Salisbury, Missouri. Thank you.
And would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
Absolutely.
Please go ahead.
I would like to say that I've testified before the Public Service Commission over the last decade multiple times, and I'm asking this Public Service Commission to deny this application because this is such a emotional thing for our family. Bear with me. There is no evidence at all that has been truthfully said with this whole project. I believe, and many other people believe, that this whole project should be denied because from the original application, the only thing that is possibly true is that they're going to transport DC current across the state of Missouri. Originally, they said they was going to put up a monopole that takes 9 square feet to carry 3 wires carrying 640,000 volts with possible electromagnetic field covering 1/4 of a square mile. The plan has been changed multiple times, and now they say they're going to put a structure up that's going to cover 1,600 square feet per structure. Going to dig immensely deep holes in the property to withstand a 200-foot tower. And that is going to create, for our property, is going to create obstacles because of underground drainage tiles that are systematically put in place. And then that also takes out, we will never be able to put up our, if we propose to put up an irrigation system, that knocks that out. And one of the reason this makes it so emotional is the original plan goes right smack through the center of 320 acres that has 2 miles of highway frontage, additional mile of gravel road frontage, all within 3 miles of Salisbury, Missouri. All the appraisals that we've seen, and those appraisals are in packets that we just received this past couple weeks for court appearance that Grainbelt is forcing onto us. And what I was getting at on those appraisals, it doesn't take into effect what those 20 to 30 possible building sites are. And one of those building sites is where the emotional part, is where my son proposed to his beautiful wife to build their dream home someday, and that has been put on hold for a full decade or more. And they have 4 beautiful grandchildren, or I have 4 beautiful grandchildren by that marriage, that also is taking building spots away from future generations and the ability to make a living off of the 460 acres that is all within those building frontage, highway frontage sites. I can't begin to say how rudely our family has been treated. We have been told that if we consistently put up opposing this project, that we will be paid less for compensation. And just less than a month ago, a company on another tract of land away from this line offered us 3 times the amount that the piddly offer Grainbelt is offering. And I just can't imagine that people serving the public can put private people ahead of hardworking citizens of this country and not have no guarantees whatsoever of saving. They say they're going to save millions of dollars. There is absolutely no proof that that ever going to take place. Missouri's electricity is very reasonable. I calculated our last bill. Our electricity cost us 10 cents a kilowatt. So is Grainbelt going to offer our utility companies a 1/4 cent less and multiply that over the entire usage of the entire state and say they're going to save the Missouri millions of dollars? I doubt that. And the only reason I'm here today is there's a lot of good people through this Tiger Connector that are landowners that need some help and support, and I'm here to help support them. And I could go on the rest of the day, but I will stop at that. And I can't begin to say as much as the previous 2 people said. They're much more professional at it than I am. I'm more emotional, but I do have some facts, and we're beside ourselves on what we're going to do in the future. But if for some reason that this whole project from St. Joe to Hannibal could be put on hold because of all the plans that has been changed, it's not the original plan at all. And the electromagnetic field that was going to be created by 3 wires versus the possibility of putting 12 wires on a 200-foot tower, is that magnetic field going to extend out a mile? Is going to extend out to 2 miles? There is no research for environmental safety done on this type of project. Not even in the world. There was lines proposed in Ireland, and I had a friend from Ireland that said that Ireland denied it because of unknown hazards. And those hazards exist here in Missouri. So I would appreciate if, for some unknown reason, you could deny this entire project. It would benefit every landowner across this state. And I do have friends, relatives, that was threatened that if you did not sign this easements, that we will give you less when we go to court. And now 2 of those has already been are deceased. They went ahead had the easement signed before their death. But I don't know what else I could say. Is there any questions y'all may have?
I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Henke.
All right. Thank you, Paul.
Donna Ingalls. And I'll let Mr. Henke go on a little longer than I might otherwise. I'm again going to reiterate that given the number of people that went to speak today, please try and be succinct with your comments.
You're fine with me. You spell my name Donninglis.
And Ms. Ingalls, would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
I do.
Please go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, as we just stated, my name is Donna Ingalls. My husband Bruce and I own and reside on a farm in Randolph County that the Grain Belt Express project will be going through. We also have 3 pipeline easements across our property, so I'm very familiar with working with utilities and with their rights of way. Several years ago, 2 Grain Belt Express representatives called us and wanted to come in and visit with us about the project. At that point, the only things that we had heard were rumors, innuendos, or snippets. So we wanted to know what the project was all about. They came in, sat down at our dining room table, talked about it, showed us information about it. I listened to what they had to say. I asked some questions, and then my husband said, "Do you all expect us to sign this easement today?" And imagine our surprise when they said, "Well, you can if you really want to, but we would recommend that you take a few days to talk it over with each other." So we decided at that point that we would enter into negotiations with this company. And we spent a few days cussing and discussing between ourselves what we thought would be a fair amount of money. And I called them back. Well, it may come as a surprise to some of you commissioners, but I'm old and I'm also way legally blind. But you need to understand that I love to negotiate, and I do it well. They came in and sat down at our dining room table again, and we came to an equitable settlement, and we did sign the easement. Now, what I think it's very important for you to understand today, that normally, when we initially talked to the representatives, they were both professional and respectful to us. But we all know that sometimes, once you sign the name, they don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. Well, that's been about 10 years ago. And over the past 10 years, every time I have contacted an Invenergy employee, and I've talked to several over the years, they've been easy to work with, without exception. And they have addressed my concerns as a landowner. I know there's a lot of emotions involved here today, and my views are different than other people's, and my experiences apparently are different. But it's important, and I want you to know, that my husband and I strongly support the Tiger Connector. We are members of a rural electric co-op and believe that without a doubt this interconnection will bring cheaper, cleaner, and more reliable power to our show-me state. You have an opportunity you don't often have, and that's to approve a project that is a win-win-win. Cheaper, cleaner, and more reliable. In closing, I want to take off of my prepared or thought of remarks and address the Amish community. I know what Ms. O'Bannon said, and I believe what she said, but you need to hear the view from the other side. I have several Amish friends in that Amish community, several of whom have signed an easement with Grain Belt Express. My friends, were they excited about it? I'm not going to lie to you and tell you they were. Of course they weren't. But were they fearful? Were they afraid? Did they feel intimidated? My friends never said anything about that. So there is always two views of the same issue. I want to thank you for your time today, and I hope that you will approve the Tiger Connector. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ingles. I have no questions. Rodney Vance.
Good morning. My
Mr.
name-
Vance, would you say and spell your name for the record?
Rodney Vance, RODNEY-VANCE.
And would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
Yes.
And what would you like to tell us today?
I'm a landowner in Audrain County, and this Tiger Connector proposal is to come through my farm. And unlike Ms. English, I have 3 pipelines and 1 high line already coming through it to devalue the price of the farm, and 1 more will only increase that devaluation. All that I've heard or know about everything, I don't see that it is a necessary line, and green energy could be a great thing in the future. Right now, I don't think they have all the technology they need, but they sure have a lot of scammers in the green energy companies and businesses. I'm not saying this is a scam, but it gives me cause to think that way sometimes. I was bypassed for the main line and was thankful for that. And now I find out that they want to get this line put in to go through my place to connect up with the grid. I don't know why they've come halfway across the state before they decided to go another 40 miles out of their way to hook up to the grid, when I'm sure there are stations a lot closer to the border that have our grid connections. But that's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vance. Joe Vance. Would you please state and spell your name for the record?
Joe Vance, Joe-E-V-A-N-C-E.
And Mr. Vance, would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
Yes, sir.
Please go ahead.
From the beginning, Grain Belt Express publicity has been loaded with half-truths and false information. After a decade of activity, their project is still rejected by states around us. They still have no electricity to distribute, no lines to distribute electricity with, and no real definite customers to buy electricity from them. In recent months, GBE has lost at least 1 court case because of multiple improper actions trying to get an easement. Our existing electrical systems say we don't need them. Other states around us don't want them. You would not want them in your backyard or running through your businesses, and we don't either. Your job is to protect the well-being of Missouri citizens. We ask you to reject this proposed permit and revoke any other permits they currently have in Missouri. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Vance. Mitchell Guess. Would you please state and spell your name for the record?
Sure. Mitchell Guess, Mitchellguess.
And would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
Yes, sir.
Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, commissioners and staff. I'm here on behalf of PAR Electrical Contractors. We're a national leader in all aspects of outside electrical construction. For more than 67 years, our reputation as a solutions provider has consistently applied across all of our service offerings. We offer a full range of service offerings: transmission, substations, distribution, telecom, startup maintenance, energized services, EPC, and emergency storm restoration. We're a national company, but we're local. We're based in Kansas City, Missouri. We have offices in St. Louis as well. We employ more than 1,000 employees across the U.S., more than 400 within the state of Missouri. We're a proud member of the IBEW. Over 90% of our workforce is IBEW union constructed. We've been a key partner with Grain Belt Express since 2015. We're prepared to do EPC, engineering, procurement, and construction based in our Kansas City, Missouri office. It's expected that over 1,500 high-quality construction jobs will be brought to Missouri during the construction. We're committed to Missouri, this innovative project, and we've made significant investments in time, resources, and money preparing a plan for engineering, procurement, and construction. Our execution plan includes strengthening local supply chains through local firms, the inclusion of disabled veteran-owned businesses, minority and women-owned businesses. We encourage you to approve the amendment to the Grain Belt Express Certificate of Convenience and Necessity, enabling the project to deliver more power to Missouri with the Tiber connector, capacity aligned by 20%, and phasing the project out to get these benefits sooner. Thank you.
What's the name of your company?
PAR Electrical Contractors.
Would you spell that, please?
PAR Electrical Contractors, LLC.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Melinda Hudson. Ms. Hudson, would you please state and spell your name for the record?
Sure, my name's Melinda Hudson, Melinda Hudson.
And would you raise your right hand to be sworn?
Certainly. Whoops.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
I do.
And what would you like to tell us today?
First of all, hello. I just want to state that I'm not a public speaker, but I've been terribly upset ever since my son got his letter, and I feel like I have to make my voice heard. I'm 100% against this Tiger connector. Just like Mr. Hankey, I get very emotional, very upset. I want to thank everyone that came. Sorry it wasn't held in the evening, where the majority of the people that I know are against this project can't be here because they have to work to make ends meet. As a show of hands, all persons here from Missouri that oppose the transmission line, please raise your hand if you oppose it. Great, thanks. I'm against the line for many reasons. Is there a need for this? No, I don't really think there is. If there was, it would have been in the original proposal years ago. Does the Tiger have contracted paying customers? I don't think they have enough to make it feasible and sustainable. My first and personal reason for being against this, I'm extremely concerned about the risk for my 2 grandchildren that will live within mere yards of this line. I've got a 14-month-old and an 8-year-old. Are there health risks? Well, the World Health Organization says there is, for anyone under 12, that there's risk of cancer. I don't think any of you all sitting up there would want any of your loved ones, whether they're little guys or your grandmother, to be at risk for cancer because of a transmission line that's not needed. What risk are there to 65 head of our cattle that will be grazing every day under these lines? What about the eagles, the deer? My granddaughter's dearly loved 50 chickens that she's raised from babies. This wonderful transmission line, this is my son's farm. We live 2 farms over, or there's 1 farm between us. This is 160 acres right here, this L shape. This black line is the transmission line. This little orange line is where they're building their home. Now plans have been stopped because, again, my grandchildren are going to be within mere yards, and my son and daughter-in-law. It physically and mentally makes me ill. Every large farm organization that I'm aware of is against this, as Garrett Hawkins stated earlier. Again, there's not a need for this. If there truly was a need for it, I'd give my son part of my land so he could build his dream home. He could still have the stupid farm over there if there was a need. There's not. Or they haven't proved to me there is. When making your decision, I hope you remember these pictures. Not only my kids, there's many other people out here that have children and grandchildren that they love, that they don't want to be under this either. I hope each of you uses your common sense, which I know all of you have it. Our generation does. You're younger than I am, but we all have it. I also hope none of you have been promised a job by GBE and that you deny the project and protect the hardworking, tax-paying citizens of Missouri. Your grandkids and great-grandkids will always have a need for food. This useless waste of federal subsidized money for a private, out-of-state company is ruining this once great nation. The Tiger Connector is so important and needed, it should have been in the original proposal. Thanks for listening from the bottom of my heart. And thanks in advance for making the correct decision. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ms. Hudson.
Yes.
And just to clarify,
Sure.
just to clarify for the record, when you asked a number of people to raise their hands who were opposed, without a count, I'm going to say for the record of this, that a number of people raised their hands.
I would say the majority, yes, sir.
And to also clarify for the court reporter, the exhibits you held up, or the demonstratives that you held up, were a picture of your grandchildren and a picture of your son's farm. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Okay. I have no questions for you.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Pat Stem.
I should have put down Patricia Stemme, that's my legal name.
I'm sorry. And you indicated earlier that you were an intervener as well.
I am.
Okay.
Yes, my husband and I.
Okay, go ahead and make your comments.
Okay,
Well,
Patricia.
actually, I'm sorry. Would you please?
P-A-T-I-C-I-A, Stemme, S-T-E-M-M-E.
And would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you
Yes.
solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
I do.
And what would you like to tell the commission?
So first off, thank you for your time. My husband and I would like to share with the commission how the high tower transmission lines will affect our farm operation and the agricultural community as a whole. We are a fourth-generation, multi-million-dollar business that generates thousands of bushels of corn, soybeans, and wheat a year. We are not the only operation by far. Most of the farm operations today are very large. We joined the Poet Bioprocessing LLC in Ladonia, Missouri, an ethanol plant, in 2006. A lot of our corn goes into producing ethanol and DDGs, which are a renewable energy. Ethanol is an oxygenate that, when added to sub-octane petroleum, allows gas to burn cleaner. Ethanol is used as an oxygenate to fuel over 90% of the gas in the United States. We have been very successful for 17 years with this technology. We are also members of the Biofuels LLC located here in Mexico, Missouri. A lot of our soybeans go to produce this amazing renewable fuel called biodiesel, which is an advanced product that has been improving our environment for over a decade. Biodiesel is domestically produced, clean burning, renewable substitute for petroleum diesel. Using biodiesel as a vehicle fuel increases energy security, improves air quality and the environment, and provides safety benefits. So my question would be, how can one company that is claiming to provide renewable energy come in and take land from another company that is already successfully producing renewable energies that work? That does not make sense to us. We are saving Missourians across the state money while providing more environmentally friendly energy. Another point we would like to share is the fact that Monroe, Audrain, and Callaway counties are part of the Midwest Corn Belt. Our farm is located in Audrain County. Audrain County is the #1 producer of soybeans in the state. Most of our grain goes to fuel and livestock feed, which ends up on your table and in your vehicle. During the summer months, because of the growing crops, we are the envy of other countries around the world because we produce more photosynthesis than anywhere else in the world. Shouldn't the commissioners be committed to protecting this advantageous phenomenon? These high towers will be destroying the very thing we are trying to save, which is our planet, a cleaner, safer environment for all of us to live in, as well as the wildlife. Having the high towers on our cropland will cause some very detrimental side effects to the land. It's called soil compaction. Soil compaction is a condition that every farm manager fights. They have to watch how many times they drive over the tilled land. Many farm operations use large tracks instead of typical tractor tires. The tracks help reduce the compaction because it transfers the weight over a broader area. Why is compaction so bad? It's because the roots of the plant can't go deep into the ground, and it stunts the plants, which results in poor yields. In many cases, it takes years to correct, so yields could be affected for an indeterminate amount of time. Invenergy will be compacting our soils in order to put up the towers and to maintain them. Their equipment may be even heavier than what the farmer uses. So we could be looking at lower yields on part of our land. With high towers, we won't be able to perform our usual aerial spraying applications of insecticides and herbicides on our crops. We use drones, helicopters, and small planes. Our sprayer booms measure 120 feet across, so it will be much more difficult to work around the towers. And what if we want to add irrigation? These towers will prevent us from even considering that option. As we look at the changes in the size of farm equipment in the last 20 years, it's all gotten bigger, a lot bigger. And we don't know what is in the future, so we don't want to be limited or hampered because of these towers crossing our farmland. Obviously, I am against this project.
Thank you, Ms. Stemme.
Kim.
I have no questions. M. Henry Martin. Would you please state and spell your name for the record?
Sure, my name is Michael Henry Martin, Michael Henry Martin.
And would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
I do.
Please go ahead.
Sure. Well, thank you first off for having me in here today, having everybody as well. I won't take up too much of people's time. I look around, and there's a lot of hardworking people here and a lot of smart people here. Harder working and smarter than I am.
Could you stand a touch closer to the microphone? I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry. Apologies. I'm usually pretty loud, and so I'm trying to not be too loud. I'm not from here. I live in Columbia, and I think that's important because these people are going to be the people that are affected the most, much more than I will be, but this is my 2 cents. I've lived a lot of places in my life. I've lived here, Kansas, Alabama, overseas, and the one thing that I see, or that I don't see enough of, is good neighbors, people that care about the people around them, and people that want the best for the country at large. I don't have an informed opinion on what I think you should or should not do. I just hope that you do keep in mind the needs of the people here and the needs of the people in our country. When it comes to energy, it's been said today that we might not need to do this project, and I tend to agree with that. We might not need to, but I personally have seen a lot of hardships that result from options other than renewable energy, like what we're seeing here. I know people who have died in the oil industry. In Alabama, I've seen a lot of hardship arise from the coal industry. Health, toil, sadness. On the flip side of that, I also have Native American heritage, and I understand that there's a lot of frustration with seeing people who come in and take what is yours and take it for themselves. These are really hard things to deal with and things that last for generations. So I can understand the other side of the angle. I'll conclude with just this. I don't have an informed decision. The people here are smart and they know what's best for them. But I do hope that you do what's best for the people of Missouri and the people of the United States. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I'm going to reiterate, if you have a phone, please place it on silent or vibrate. And Leslie Mayer.
Hello, it's actually Meyer.
I apologize.
That's okay. Happens all the time.
Ms. Meyer, will you state and spell your name for the record?
Leslie Meyer, Leslie-Meyer.
And would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
I do.
Please go ahead.
Hello, I am an associate commissioner in Authorizing County. I first heard about the Tiger Connector project late last summer when Jason Shaw with Enver Energy popped into our office. At that time, Enver Energy, our Grainbelt Express, had filed the Tiger Connector as an amendment to the initial Grainbelt Express line and was waiting on a PSC ruling. We were told it was a done deal. I hope and I pray that it wasn't, and we are here today to help persuade you to make a decision, and the decision hasn't already been made. I was raised by two people who taught me that there is no greater fraud than a broken word or lie. When I took this position as a county commissioner, I promised I would stand for the residents of Authorizing County and advocate for them to the best of my ability, And this is me living up to that philosophy and not breaking my word. I'm not going to get up here and tell you that I know a darn thing about electrical power or this project or anything about lines or megawatts or anything like that. I know about agriculture. I know about cattle. I can tell you how to treat a steer with listeria. I can tell you why you don't buy a heifer that the sale barn has written witch across its forehead. But here's what I do know about this project. As a commission, we offered to help representatives with Inver Energy meet with the landowners who are affected by this proposed Tiger Connector project on GB Kaiser's farm to answer questions, to help ease their fears, and to open a dialogue between the two groups. The landowners wholeheartedly agreed. Inver Energy refused. In some cases, the project cuts entire plots of land in half. Most of that is farm ground. We asked Inver Energy if they would consider following the roadways to keep from doing that for our farmers especially, because I don't know about you, but if you've tried driving and maneuvering large farm equipment, sometimes having those lines in the middle of your best fields, it does not work that well. Again, the answer was no. That conversation ended very quickly. Alternative solutions were not even given. Again, it was a done deal. Inver Energy has gone on record with local media like the Mexico Ledger last summer that they do not have any Missouri customers for this line and spur. So Missouri landowners have to suffer to provide power to those in other states. So how is this for the greater good of Missouri and Missouri landowners? And again, is it really okay to allow the federal administration's buzzwords of green energy to take away the property rights of landowners in the state for a private company for private gain? Missouri's electrical grid is fine. Our power is strong and dependable. We do not experience brownouts. Our rates are reasonable. And Audrain County has several solar and wind projects that are currently working with property owners and not utilizing this extreme clause or threat to landowners for eminent domain. And they're working with them, not against them. We have listened to our county residents who live along the proposed route. They do not want the Tiger Connector. They also do not have faith in Inver Energy or its business practices, nor do they want eminent domain being used to threaten them into signing these easements. The Audrain County Commission supports its residents. Please listen as they have spoken, and all of us are going on record as saying no to the Tiger Connector. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I have no questions.
Thank you.
Alan Winders.
Alan Winders, A-L-A-N, W-I-N-D-E-R-S.
And Mr. Winders, would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
I do.
And what would you like to tell the commission?
First of all, welcome to Audrain County. I have the great honor of being the presiding commissioner here, and we appreciate that your commission is here. Welcome to all of you who have come to voice your opinion. We appreciate very much that you're here. Welcome if you're not from Audrain County. We're glad that you're here, although we agree that there could have been maybe a hearing in each of the 3 counties. Welcome and congratulations to Grain Belt Express. You, as an elected official, I know how difficult it is to get a room full of people to agree on anything, but I think by show of hands you saw that a room full of people agree that you should not have eminent domain to do this project. As Commissioner Meyer stated, we are in opposition of the project. My personal reason for being in opposition is due almost exclusively to the use of eminent domain in this case. It is not an arm's length negotiation when one party knows the outcome, when both parties know the outcome of the negotiation going in. I'll be brief and simply ask the PSC to use their authority to protect our landowners, not to assist a company in stepping on their private property rights. Thank you. I'll be happy to try to answer any questions.
I have no questions. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Tracy Graham.
Thank you, Chairman. Tracy, T-R-A-C-Y, R, Graham, G-R-A-H-A-M.
And would you raise your right hand to be sworn, Mr. Graham? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
I do.
Please go ahead.
Again, thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Commission, for being here and staff. I'll be the briefest of the three commissioners. My stance is that it is not fair for Audrain County citizens who we respect their property rights in all ways, that they can be told in what to do with eminent domain. That is just not appropriate for our citizens, whether they're farmers, business people, or anybody else. The other thing that really bothers me is it's going to have a huge impact on the farming and ag industry. It's going to take productive land out of production to be able to put these towers up. And again, you've already heard from different people about how difficult that is to use their equipment around those fields with those big towers and equipment. The other last thing I will mention is I have not seen any data that has a direct positive impact on services or electricity being provided to the citizens of Audrain County. It might be shipped down to Columbia, Boone County, or places further south, but I see nothing that will help any of the electrical grid in Audrain County that I'm aware of. That's all I have, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. I have no questions.
Thank you.
GB Rain.
Try Kaiser.
Kaiser?
Kaiser.
Is that a nickname?
No, that is my GB Kaiser. G is in girl, B is in boy, Kaiser, K-A-I-S-E-R.
I'm sorry, I had a difficulty reading that. Mr. Kaiser, would you please state and spell your name for the record?
G as in girl, B.
I'm sorry, you just did this.
Yes, sir.
I apologize. Just raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
Yes, sir, I do. I farm in Audrain County. This proposed line goes through 3 of our farms. There's one particular farm, there's 308 tillable acres. I don't need a power line to farm around. And the other 2 are the same way. Also, it seems to me that whenever these projects come about, we can't seem to get the right people to listen to us. Everybody, either we haven't got enough money or we haven't got enough guns or something for anybody to pay attention to us. And it is extremely important that you keep in mind someday you're going to need agriculture production to produce the food for this country. We can't continue to put it under highways, put it under poles, taking good agriculture production land out of service. It doesn't work. It also kind of looks to me like this is one of them deals like Russia and Putin. He wants Ukraine, he's going to take it. That's kind of what Grain Belt Express is trying to do. They're just going to take it. It does not seem like this is a fair way of doing business. I don't know, most of these people have worked all their life to make what they've got. And we don't need some individual trying to take what we spent a lifetime paying for, paying taxes on, for their own personal gain. Because we're not really going to gain very much of anything. I just come back from New Mexico. I saw a lot of wind towers. I saw a lot of wind towers that weren't working. Rust running down the poles. The seals, the shafts, something in that windmill had quit. They weren't repaired. It doesn't appear to me as that is an efficient way to make anything work. If it is not reliable, then we need to figure out some other way to do this. And there has to be another way of generating energy that is more reliable and efficient. Because when the green money dries up, these guys are all going away. And America has been fleeced again. So that's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Kaiser. Robert Wayne Wilcox.
I'm Robert Wayne Wilcox, ROBERT-WAYNE-WILCOX.
And would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
I do.
Please go ahead.
Well, I'm one of the rare farmers here today that's in favor of this project. I've been in favor of it since it came to my recollection. They came before the Randolph County Commissioner, and I'm a retired county commissioner. And one of the first things that we did, and our presider at that point in time was an investigative reporter, retired, and so she set about looking at these high voltage DC lines around the United States. And eventually I went to Minnesota to see one of these high voltage DC lines and to interview the folks that operated that line. And they had kept meticulous records about complaints of people that lived around those lines and any health problems, and there was nothing that had ever taken place. Now, that was not a 4,000 volt, but it was a 2,500 high voltage line, and it is still in operation today. And we visited with farmers, landowners there, and folks that had large farming operations. They owned their own airplanes, they did their own spraying, and they were able to fly under the lines because they were high enough, and that's how they sprayed and operated underneath those. Well, anyway, I'm a Century Farm owner. I have, like several of the other folks that have spoken, I have 3 pipelines and 1 high voltage DC AC line going across my farm. And this high voltage DC line will cross that high voltage AC line. And that was one of the things that I wanted to see, was I had been told there'd be a big fireball when they were both energized. And I officially stood right where the high voltage DC line and the AC line crossed, and nothing was happening. And there was more than one of us there. And yes, I also have supported Missouri Farm Bureau's position on eminent domain reform, and I am a past County Farm Bureau president, and I'm currently sitting on the Randolph County Farm Bureau board. I also have been a director of a rural electric cooperative for 33 years, so I get input monthly on needs of electricity and so on and so forth. And I do a lot of reading about the need for energy. The big thing is you have to have reliable, dispatchable power. If not, you have to have large cross-country transmission lines, whether they be DC or AC, and one of the key things on this DC line, can the power go either way? Yes, it can. It's what I've been informed by the Invenergy folks. And I attended the early hearings, and I asked them not to continue to cut, because they were showing us a path that would cut across the country and create another scar. And I asked not to do that. Well, they heard that the next time they brought a path back to Randolph County and showed us they were now following these pipelines in a lot of cases across the state. And so we cut down on the amount of scars that we were having to the United States. And I was a helicopter pilot with the Army National Guard for years. So I've flown all over the United States, and you can see those scars. And I appreciate that. I'm an avid quail hunter. I've got folks that I let come and hunt deer on my property. And in some cases, the deer like that open spots. And that makes good places for those folks to hunt. But I have signed my easement. I've been able to work with the folks, and I am a well-known name, and I have not been approached by any of the folks in the Amish community. I have friends out there that have complained to me about any problems there. Now, I do not deny what Mrs. O'Bannon, because she has been a very staunch opponent to this, and we've always agreed to disagree on the project. And I definitely...
Mr. Wilcox, I'm going to ask you to wind it up just because we've gone over 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, as I've stated, I'm in favor of the project, and because I've supported it from day one. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you very much for your comments. Dave Stemme.
My name's Dave Stemme, D-A-V-E-S-T-E-M-M-E, Centralia, Missouri. My wife and I farm here in Audrain County, and
would you raise your right hand?
I'm sorry, yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
Yes, it is.
And are you related or part of the party that would include Patricia Stemme?
Yes, she's my wife.
Okay, go ahead.
But we farm here in Audrain, Boone, Randolph, and Callaway counties, and this power line is going to affect several of our farms, and we oppose it because I'm not in favor of green energy. I think it's, at this point in time, it's very expensive. I think it's going to increase all of our utility rates tremendously. It's going to make more poor folks poorer, and going to make some really rich folks richer. And I am opposed to that. You have any questions?
No questions. Thank you for your comments. Patty McBride.
Patty McBride, P-A-T-T-Y, M-C-B-R-I-D-E.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
Yes. My husband Larry and I own land that this proposed line, the proposed Tiger Connector, is wanting to cross. I'm not going to go into all the stuff that everybody else has already talked about. I had all that stuff written down. But our biggest concern is, he mentioned quail. We have a lot of quail hunters in our family too. They haven't been able to quail hunt because there are so few quail around. Just this past fall, we saw a covey 2 or 3 times of quail. And that, that was huge. These guys come in, where they're wanting to put it through on us is in a fence row. That's where quail like to hang out. They take out that fence row, they're gonna destroy the habitat of this new covey of quail that we've just found. I'm sure there's other wildlife, but that's specifically the one where we live that will be impacted. We also have grandchildren. They've talked about the impact of these huge power lines to young kids. So they're at our house at least once a week. We don't want to expose them any more than they have to all of this stuff. Property, the value of our property. What's it going to happen then? Right now, land is high. You go through and put that power line through there, it's going to decrease the value of our land and all the connecting lands where we live. Plus, we have to pay property tax where we can no longer utilize the land. So we're paying the property tax that somebody else is making money on. That's not fair. When we have spent a lifetime trying to pay off that land and get it into, to be environmentally conscious of the property and make it productive land. Then we come to the maintenance of it. We have another power line that goes through. I don't know if it's AC/DC, don't know what it is. It's a line. And they come through periodically, check the poles, whatnot. A few years ago, they came through and put new poles in. And granted, these are wood, but I'm assuming there will still be maintenance on whatever it is Grain Belt is wanting to put up. So they came in, put new poles in. It was wet at that time, tore the pasture up. It was our best pasture, had that pasture all tore up, did their work. They were there, I don't know, a couple of weeks, in and out. Did not correct what they had destroyed. So we were left with ruts in the pasture, and I think it's been about 10 years, because in fact, they were just in there last week again, doing something. And you can still see ruts where they were there putting those new poles in. So we were stuck with that, another one of those eye blemishes, and having to correct what they tore up again. Had something else, hang on, sorry. And I don't know why they can't use, I think Marilyn O'Bannon mentioned earlier about using the right-of-ways, and they said no. Why? If they're gonna push back on that, I would think there would need to be a good reason why they would do that. Those right-of-ways are there for a reason. There's already electrical lines there. Why can't they use that? And how would you feel if this was going on your land? If this was gonna be a half a mile from your house, a quarter mile from your house? How would you feel if you had a bunch of strangers come in, drive across the edge of your property, tearing up your land, and these strangers are out there with your kids in the backyard? How would you feel if it was your property? I'd like for you to think about that. So obviously, I'm opposed to this as well.
Thank you for your comments. I'm sorry, I'm having a little difficulty reading the next name. Charles Doug Crawford?
Yeah.
Thank you for your...
I'm sorry, my writing's not very good. Signature. I'm Charles Greg Crawford. It's CHRWD.
Arlesgreg, Crawford.
And would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
I do.
Go right ahead.
Our farm was identified as one of the potential paths for Tiger Connector, but ultimately they chose a path through our neighbors' farms. I'm opposed to the Grain Belt and Tiger Connector application. Our family has been farming for nearly 100 years. Plus, we have the Thomas Hill transmission line that runs across one of our farms, which is much smaller and far less environmentally intrusive than the proposed Grain Belt and Tiger Connector transmission lines. So I can speak firsthand experience. The construction process causes extreme compaction to the soil. It takes years to restore, which results in reduction in yields, lower production, and economic losses. The additional fuel and labor costs to maneuver around these bases adds up because they are there forever. In fact, we eventually stopped row cropping a section of and put it in pasture. We've been considering adding to our irrigated acres, but these transmission lines make it more costly and difficult to justify. The use of airplanes and helicopters to top dress fertilizer, insecticides, herbicides, and fungicides are essential to farming today. The gentleman said they fly under these transmission lines. The ones we hire are not flying underneath the transmission lines. The reason they don't fly is because of safety concerns for the lines. Transmission lines with their large bases impact the values of our farms because it's more costly to build irrigation pivots and it takes land out of production. Grain Belt, time after time, has failed to be truthful. It is my understanding Grain Belt informed the PSC, you guys, when they initially filed the application for eminent domain, that they had all their finances in place. If that's the case, then why are they seeking 80% of the total cost of the project loan from the Department of Energy? We were told by Invenergy representatives there that they could not complete this project without the loan. So therefore, it looks like the original Grain Belt application should have been denied. And definitely, if they don't have the finances now, how do they have it for the Tiger Connector? Why wasn't Grain Belt upfront with the PSC about their intention with this proposed Tiger Connector? Was it their intent to get eminent domain and then come back later? Is that a possibility? Eminent domain should have never been given to a private out-of-state companies. I attended the Callaway Tiger Connector public meetings. During those meetings, we asked multiple representatives if they intended to utilize the Tiger Connector to transmit or purchase local solar. They emphatically all said, absolutely not, which was another lie, because I have a copy of a lease agreement from an Invenergy in Williamsburg area in Callaway County that they're trying to create their own solar farms. Grain Belt claims significant cost savings to Missouri consumers, but based on their track record, how can we believe what they say? I implore the PSC to obtain verifiable evidence that supports these alleged claims. Germany has placed their transmission lines underground to minimize environmental impacts, which is much less intrusive. So why not bury the lines and utilize the existing right-of-ways? along the roads and highways, which is far less impactful to the farmers, farming, and everyday citizens, which would solve a lot of the problems and concerns. I don't know how a company qualifies when they have no paying customers or sustainable revenue sources. The citizens should be assured these concerns are eliminated and there is no long-term harmful effects due to all the uncertainty and Invenergy's reputation of failing to be honest. I would strongly recommend denying Tiger Connector's application. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my story.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Crawford.
Thank you.
Dustin Hudson.
D-U-S-T-I-N, Hudson, common spelling H-U-D-S-O-N.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
I do, sir.
What would you like to tell the commission?
Well, to start off with, I would just like, more or less, I think everybody here, or the majority of the people here that disagree with this, is all about our rights, okay? Every day, government takes more of our rights than they do. We all know it. Number one, no is no. Okay, if it's such a great deal, there's other ways. If it has to go, if it's such a great thing, there are other ways to do it besides taking property and other people's rights just so one individual or one company can make money. You know, and there is. I'm sorry, you guys may or may not. I don't know what you all do for a living besides this. I have no idea. But imagine if you were to walk in and someone comes up to you and says, I can better utilize what you do by taking it from you and paying you what I say it's worth or whatever we do, however that works. And I will do better than you, but you're still going to pay the taxes on it. You're still going to have to deal with me. I'm going to take what I want from you and do what I want to do with it, and which limits your ability. Then that's my biggest problem with this. Since I was a kid, I watched Highway 54 go in. And I watched them, they demolished houses and took stuff. And my old man told me, he said, that's their eminent domain, they're taking that. I thought, how in the hell do you take property from someone else just for the public good? I understand public good, but this is a private individual, you know, this is a private company. You know, and I don't agree with it even if it is for the public good. I don't agree with it. Like I said, most of these people out here have worked their entire lives to have what they have, just so we can ask, you know, beg the five of you, the four of you sitting there to beg you, please sir, do not take my stuff. Please do not give this company the ability to take my stuff. How would that make you all feel? I mean, I showed up, I didn't prepare anything because I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm livid over this entire thing, okay? That I have to stand up here and try to prove my case to 4 individuals that I don't know and know nothing about me and don't care and don't blame me. You don't care about me, I don't care about you. I'm not trying to be rude or mean, I don't. You know, but, you know, to try to have to do, imagine if you were in our shoes. That's all I can say. And there is no need for this, as has been said repeatedly, all kinds of stuff. It's for somebody who wants to make money. You know, and I tell you what, maybe I'll apply for a certificate of convenience and necessity because, gentlemen, I hate to say it, but I'll pay more taxes on all your all's farms, you know, if you let me just take it for what I go with. You know, there you go. We're good. I mean, anyway, that's all I have to say. I'm totally against this for those reasons, you know, as well as everything else. And we don't know the environmental concerns. We don't know many, many things, but, you know, it's aggravating to say the absolute least that we all have to take time out of our days and everything to come here and beg you 4 people to not allow them to take, and I'm probably like the majority of you. I feel that most of you have probably already been bought anyway, you know, so I really hope that you're not, and I really, really, really hope that you do the right thing, you know, because all of us are citizens, and this is about our rights. It's not about someone else's ability to make money. So, do you all have anything for me? Okay.
Mr. Hudson, thank you for your comments.
Yes, sir.
Michael Kelly.
Michael Kelly, M-I-C-H-A-E-L-K-E-L-L-E-Y.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
I do.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners and staff. I am the Vice President and General Manager for Hubble Power Systems in Centralia, Missouri. Thank you for the opportunity to present a statement in support of Grain Belt's request to amend the Certificate and Convenience of Necessity. For those not familiar with Hubble, the Centralia, Missouri location is part of a group of companies which manufacture a wide variety of distribution, transmission, substation products for utilities, with products for the communications market as well. If you look up at a power pole or a transmission tower, 80–90% of what you see attached to the poles or towers are manufactured by companies of Hubble. We have a strong presence in Missouri with locations in St. Louis, Fenton, Cuba, and Centralia. Over 750 employees work on the Centralia campus, involved in the manufacturing, testing, distribution, engineering, marketing, and customer service. The Centralia manufacturing campus has been there for 116 years, and we're there to stay. An additional 530 Hubble employees work in the other 3 Missouri locations around the state. I give you this background as I believe it's important for you to understand that due to our long company history and stability, the things we manufacture, distribution capabilities, that Hubble was selected to manufacture a wide range of the hardware assemblies, insulators, and other equipment for the Grain Belt Express project. Besides manufacturing the project or the products, Grain Belt Express will also utilize the distribution center in Centralia as a staging point for material, both Hubble's and other manufacturers for the Grain Belt Express project. And Hubble would also manage the logistics for delivering that material to job site locations. We estimate around 65 jobs would be created to support the GBX project. And the Grain Belt Express will provide more affordable power for our company and community, ultimately lowering our cost to manufacture and keeping us more competitive in this global economy. Having unanimously ruled this project in the public interest previously, I guess what's left to decide now is whether the project will be allowed to deliver a greater share of power here in Missouri, a request that Missourians and even project opponents have asked of the Grain Belt Express for years. This amendment and the Grain Belt Express Tiger Connector are necessary to meet that demand, certainly from an electrical perspective. Invenergy Transmission, the owner of Grain Belt Express, continues to be a good corporate citizen and partner to local businesses like Hubble. They've worked with our company and other construction suppliers, contractors, and businesses to ensure Missouri businesses are involved stakeholders in billions of dollars in infrastructure development that this project will bring to the region. I urge you to approve the amendment in order to enable the significant additional benefits these changes will provide to Missouri energy consumers and businesses like Hubble. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you.
Clarissa Cawthorn.
Good afternoon. My name is Clarissa Cawthorn, C-L-A-R-I-S-S-A, last name Cawthorn, C-A-U-T-H-O-R-N.
And would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
I do.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. And I say that, but I have to say but in that. There are a lot of things to be shameful for in this room today. We should be shameful for the fact that there are men and women sitting in this room fighting for their property rights. Folks that have raised their children here, paid property taxes, and hope to build homes in the future not only for themselves but for their children. They are curious that if today the Public Service Commission will listen to them, will hear their concerns, and will go home thinking about how it impacts them and the rest of us for generations. There are folks in this room that may not comment, but have to me in the past that they have planted apple trees, walnut trees, pecans, and roots here that have been here for ages. My question is are we considering this hard enough? See, the other thing that I find shameful today is that today is the only opportunity that these folks get to see you all straight to your face and in your eyes. I have hosted more public hearings about this exact Tiger Connector than the Public Service Commission has for these folks to plead their case. I've sat in rooms in DC and talked to folks from Representation for Clean Line that lobby for them that have thought this is all but a done deal. I ask you as a Public Service Commission, is this just another check in a box for the golden parachute that Invenergy seems to have in this state? Or are you truly hearing what my friends, neighbors, and family members that I consider are saying? I ask this not only as a neighbor, but as a County Farm Bureau president, a cattlemen's board member, and someone that plans to raise her 2 children here, and with hopes that they will come back and raise their children as well. Public Service Commission, please take into consideration who the folks are that support you with their tax dollars, who the folks are that vote those in that appoint you into your bureaucratic positions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Cawthorn. You didn't mention your county of residence.
Yeah, I live here in Audrain. I apologize.
And who do you represent?
Just myself and my family.
Did I hear you say that you are County Farm Bureau president?
I am, and I serve on our local cattlemen's board.
The local cattlemen's board? And are you related to John Cawthorn?
I am.
How?
I'm his daughter-in-law.
Okay.
Yeah, so don't hold it against me, right?
Too late.
Yeah, it's all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. William Hollander.
Good afternoon. Am I close enough to the microphone?
Yes, you are. I can hear you.
I had some dental work done. Right now I can talk better without the teeth than with them, so I apologize. My wife and I are landowners. We own a fairly large farm.
Would you state and spell your name for the record?
I'm sorry. It's William Hollander, Hollander. And my wife and I own a fairly large farm in the path.
Other arm. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
I do.
And I apologize for interrupting you so many times.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
Probably a better lawyer than a witness. And my wife and I own a farm, a fairly large farm in the path of the project. We rent most of the farm to the Stemmies and our partners, and they grow corn and soybeans on our farm. And we are kind of struggling to grow pecans on the rest of it. I went to first grade here. I went to 10th grade here. My parents bought that farm the year I was born, so we've had it 60 years. I live in St. Louis right now and practice law there. We are going to retire here probably within the next year or so, and we are not in favor of it. We are not in favor of the way that people have been treated. I don't want to repeat a bunch of stuff that other people said, so I'm going to try and say things that I think would add to that. We rely on that farm now pretty much for our income. I don't know how much my law practice is going to move up here to Columbia. It's going to have a big effect on us. All the things that they already mentioned, the problems with the drone traffic, the gentleman who testified that the planes can fly under the wires. We almost lost the crop from 1 year. It was so dry, and the renters paid to bring in these planes and drop this, or it was too wet, and they paid to bring in these planes and drop urea in there, which saved our corn crop. These were not planes that were flying under your wires, sir. They were jets out of Chicago that came like 1,000 miles. They were using the whole 600 acres to turn around. We're not going to be able to do that again. If they put this wire up and it's dry like that, we're going to lose the crop is what's going to happen. They spend a lot of time on the problem with the highly erodible soil. They've got all these guidelines from Farm Services, and they office up there that they have to comply with. And they've been fighting erosion on these farms all their life, for 50 years to try and avoid another Dust Bowl situation. Now these people want to come in and build right in the middle of their field and they expect them to drive around. One thing that was not mentioned, and I'm no technophile, but they tell us that the future of this is automated farming, that soon there will not be a farmer in the tractor that's farming my farm. I don't think that's going to work very well when the tractor runs into the electric wire and then we've got another lawsuit or we've got people injured or whatever. But the situation here, these are big farms, these are big fields, these are big operations. I go to the store in St. Louis and here, and I can't get all the food I want. They say there's a food shortage. I can't get the brand I want. I had to buy the little crackers, not the big crackers. We don't have any electric shortage in Audrain County. I get fantastic service from Consolidated Electric. It is better than my electric service in St. Louis. They do not interfere with our operation. They do not run wires where we do not want them. Stemmy's farm by us is basically 2 squares on the checkerboard that sit diagonal to our 2 squares and they all join at the same corner. What I understand, they want to put that wire right through that corner that services 4 different fields and 4 different farming operations right now. We've already got all kinds of stuff coming in and out of there. My dad and his dad made that agreement that we could drive across that corner, and they could drive across that corner so their field wasn't landlocked, so we had access to both roads. Our farm runs from Highway D all the way to the county line road on the Audrain County, Callaway County line. A couple other things that maybe were not mentioned. These farmers, I'm from St. Louis. I tried cases in St. Louis County, and I've come up here to court too, but I've spent most of my time in St. Louis the last 35 years. In St. Louis, if somebody wants something or they don't like it, they will stand up and say that right away. These folks are quiet. I go to Walmart, they don't say much. They don't say something unless it needs to be said. The fact that you've got this whole group out here, that they're upset, that they're almost unanimously unhappy with the way that they've been treated is quite significant. If I had to, and as a lawyer, it's been my job sometimes to get groups and get them motivated in one direction. If I had to do that in St. Louis, I would have a lot easier time than I would up here. It's kind of hard to get them on board. And what they'd mentioned is true. There's a whole silent majority out here that has not come forward, that is afraid they're going to be penalized or afraid they're going to be mistreated. People don't like lawyers and they don't like meetings. You talk about whether this has affected us. You know what's supposed to be happening today? They're all supposed to be farming. There's nobody out there. The cows are out there. There's nothing happening at my place. We were supposed to be putting up a grain bin today, but all these people have taken off work. They're here. They're not getting any payment or compensation for that. It's very time-consuming. They're worried about it. They're laying awake at night. But, I'm not here to tell you how to do your job. It says Public Service Commission right on the front. Don't forget the public part. It's my understanding that's who you're here to look out for. We don't need this. It's not necessary. We have Consolidated Electric. We have adequate electric service. It is not convenient for us. They think that they can run over us. At the end of the day, it comes down to what the other guy said, somebody else trying to think that they know better how to make money off of our land than we do. And I think that the whole thing is wrong. I appreciate you letting me talk, and do you have any questions for me?
No, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm wrong.
This is Andrew Schulte, representing Grainbelt Express. Just for clarification of the record, Mr. Hollander, are you the same Mr. Hollander who is an intervener in the case?
Yes, correct. And I'm sorry I failed to mention that.
Thank you.
My wife and I are interveners.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments.
Kelly Coinstig?
I yield my time.
Greg Stowers?
It's Charles Gregory Stowers, C-H-A-R-L-E-S-G-R-E-G-O-R-Y, Stowers, S-T-O-W-E-R-S.
And would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
I do.
Please go ahead.
All right, I'll just give you a little background where I come from. I was born and raised in Audrain County. I grew up in ag, and I've been a farmer basically my entire life in some fashion. I was also a real estate agent for 10 years, and I'm currently a claim supervisor for large crop insurance. So ag runs deep in my blood. With that being said, I also reside on a farm, and I farm that we have owned for over 125 years. Luckily, one of our farms was picked initially, but it got moved, so as long as that doesn't change, we're in the clear. But some of the farms that I do farm are going to have those power lines cross them at this time. So first, I hope this committee is taking very seriously the matter of allowing the landowner's rights being taken away for another company to make profit on ground that is and has been a family's property that they have paid for, paid taxes, and have spent many years of sweat and blood making their ground their own. If the decision is made to allow Tiger Connector to go through, this will have many impacts for many years to come, including of return on investment, decline with reference to production of products, time management, efficiencies, and ultimately the ground declining in price. Our ag products, whether they are livestock or row crops, will be impacted due to compaction and removal of high-quality topsoil, which will have a direct impact on the production. Then to the management aspect, when poles are added to the ground, operation efficiencies will decline and obviously limits the opportunities of bettering the ground, for example, irrigation or water management. Not only does this affect my generation, but will for every generation to follow. I don't believe in Invenergy as being a private company for profit is offering all they can. Profit sharing and or cheap energy should be offered to the affected landowners or anyone close enough to offset the future loss to the landowners or the community. Also, even though it may be more expensive, Invenergy could use current easements or go underground, but are choosing to go take other ground at the public's expense, which is wrong, because it should be at Invenergy's expense, not the landowners. There's also a community impact that I don't think anyone can answer in a long-term effect, and that is health and environmental impact. And once it is built, there's no getting any of these impacts back due to high voltage lines. Secondly, Grain Belt is applying for taxpayer money that will ultimately pay for their projects, but at this time, to my knowledge, there has not been anything built and has no income to substantiate that this is a viable business model on their first project. Invenergy has stated that their energy will be so much cheaper than others, but there is no proof to this other than their word, and I don't believe other local co-ops, our local co-ops, have signed on with them. I have major concerns as this project is now in the hands of a second company, as the other has failed, and yet nothing has been built on the original project, and they are wanting to grab more real estate for another project, and are now changing from their original plan. Finally, I would say this is bad business and is not in the best interest of the public, and for sure, not the landowners that can ultimately be forced to give up their land rights. I would like to thank you for your time and consideration for all the comments today. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. John Burns.
My name is John Burns, John-B-U-R-N-S.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
I do.
And what would you like to tell the commission today?
It's a little redundant. I kind of feel like I'm a preacher at the first time he's being interviewed. Sorry. My name is John Burns. I'm a resident of Callaway County for more than 50 years. I live on a century farm that has been in my wife's family for close to 150 years. I would urge you to deny eminent domain to the Tiger Connector proposed by Invenergy. This is a for-profit company, not a public utility as they would present themselves. Eminent domain requires three parts. The first is the property taken must be for the public use only. The second, just compensation must be paid to the landowner in exchange for the property. These lines in many cases will destroy will destroy a small farm due to the tower's locations. I personally know a family moving from a family home due to the proposed tower location. 50 feet from their house. The third is that no person can be deprived of their property without due process of law. So if a for-profit company wants to cut a wide swatch through many counties in Missouri, bullying, threatening, or suing the landowner, many are elderly, living alone, and these people come in and terrorize them, forcing them to agree under the threat of a lawsuit. These folks can't afford a lawyer and all the expense involved with the legal fees just to keep their own land. I've been in meetings with these reps, and they are rude and use bullying tactics. One meeting of county commissioners, they told them they could basically do whatever they wanted. They didn't care what the county commissioners wanted or what the county wanted. They were going to do what they wanted. They could bury the lines, as was done in Germany, which would alleviate a lot of the problems. The PSC is the Public Service Commission. Your job is to protect the citizens of the state of Missouri from companies with questionable practices. This company is very questionable in view of the fact they need to take taxpayer money to build a project Missouri residents don't want or need. The customers they say they have are basically bought with the promise of almost free electricity. Please do not give them any more power to destroy these farms and lives of Missouri residents. Do not give them the ability to steal any more property from the farmers. Thank you. Any questions?
No, thank you, Mr.
Thank
Burns. Susan Burns?
My name is Susan Burns. Last name is B-U-R-N-S.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please go ahead.
All right. Thank you for letting me come and speak a few minutes. I'm not going to cover all the things that everybody else has covered, which was most of what I was going to say. What I'm really wanting to try to share with the PSC today is my feeling. The grain belt is not coming across my land. That was my husband that just spoke. I live on a Century Farm, and I've been there the whole 75 years of my life. And I'm a part of a community. And community works together, they play together, and they suffer together. So you heard in my husband's voice his emotion. Not that the grain belt is going across his land, but it's going across his neighbor's land. And we care about our neighbors. So you are destroying a community, not just a farm. When the farms begin to fail, the farms around them will begin to fail. When a grid comes in of this size and brings in other green energy, which for sure it will, you heard another gentleman say, and he was holding a lease, and I've seen it, that Energy came in and has offered to lease ground to begin a solar operation. And it's within 5 miles of where their inversion station is going to end in Kingdom City. So we know that they're coming, and they're going to bring wind turbines here, and they're going to bring solar here. And that's going to cover all of our farmland. So grain belt is kind of like a centipede. They come in and they bring all of the other peripheral things with them. And they're using eminent domain to be able to come in and control these whole entire communities. So I would ask you to think about that as well as you think about these individuals that are going to suffer. It's going to make the whole community suffer and the whole county. And in it, eventually, I think the whole state. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Burns. Charles Henke?
Good afternoon. Charles Hankey, Charles Henke. First of all, thanks for hearing us out. I've been in this
Would
quite
you
a
raise
while.
your right hand to be
Oh,
sworn?
sorry.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
I do.
Go ahead.
Been at this quite a few years now, over a decade. Of course, y'all approved the first line, but I believe this is a little different. This seems like it's getting pushed through pretty quickly. I ask that y'all deny this line mainly because it's a new line. This isn't a spur. This isn't a adjoining line. It's a new line with a new destination for electricity. They're wanting to change the converter station. In order to do that, they should have to start over. This should be back to square one for the company. They shouldn't be just allowed and be granted a free pass. And that sure seems like that's what's happening here. We've been in good faith negotiations with Greenbelt for quite a few years now. First of all, we would deal with contract land staff, now Poston L.A. White, Mr. Seth Wright. Let's just say they haven't been willing to negotiate at all. The main point I was wanting to make when negotiating with them is I want to move the line a few hundred feet. I mean, I think it's about 200 feet or less. And what it'll do is we've already got a path through some timber where we'd like for the line to go, but they want to cut a new path right next to it. And it's going to make a big wide open space. And actually on the eastern edge of the property, there's a section of timber there, and they want to go directly through the center of it, taking out a lot more trees. And it'll also create a wind tunnel, which will negatively affect the crops that grow on it and the cattle. And also right where they want to put it is right where all our cows calve, and they calve in September, and it can be hot, so they need the shade. I've asked many times if they'll move the line just a few hundred feet to the north, and every time they will not even negotiate. They say, no, that's where the line's going. Tough. As far as the dollar compensations, we have negotiated with many times with contract land staff, and then now Poston L.A. White. They won't raise their offer. They have the right of eminent domain, so they won't do it. And I know part of the reason is because I'm up here speaking. I guarantee this will be used against me in our negotiations. 100% chance it will. I've been a very vocal voice since the beginning, and they are using it against me now. But I also feel strongly enough that, you got to stand for something, because otherwise you're just going to get pushed around. And I feel very passionate about this because it's going right through the center of our farm. And, by moving that line, it won't affect anybody else. It won't. The only thing it'll affect is less trees will be cut down, and it'll make it easier for us to handle the cattle on that property. They'll have more shade and so on and so forth. What I'm getting at is, why are they allowed to completely reroute and move where they're going to shove electricity and move their line, but they won't even move a couple hundred feet and negotiate with landowners and make it better on the land that we own and better on us too, but they won't do it. And I'll tell you, in that contract, I don't know if you all have been able to see it, but it is very flawed. One of the things in it was, in the contract they handed me, is they said they would not pay damages to us after completion of the project. So if something happens, they need to come through, we're out, tough. We won't get paid. They come through and destroy a crop, that's just tough for us. I'm talking 10 years down the road or whenever it is that happens. Also, I can tell you this room would be a lot more full if the people that have already signed easements unwillingly were allowed to come. I know a lot of people that have signed easements only because of the threat of eminent domain, no other reason. They were as passionate as me about it coming through, but they were told by Poston L.A. White that if they were to publicly badmouth the company or the project, that they would not be paid the rest of their compensation. Many, many people have told me that. People that have already signed and one thing that kind of stuck with me in the comments here is Mr. Wilcox said that he was for it. Well, part of it is he gets paid by Grainbelt. And also, we need to find out why.
That is a lie.
Well, we also need to find out why the Randolph County Commissioners were voted out. It's because of this project. He chose not to run, but he also knew there's no way he'd be elected again because of this project. Again, I just ask you all to, on Mr. Wilcox's deal, it may be, I haven't heard that, I just heard that as a rumor that he was being paid by Grainbelt on several occasions. So that's all speculative and not, I obviously don't know that for sure. But I've heard that for many, many years. But I do know that there's no way any of the county commissioners that voted for this or were in favor of it would ever get elected again, because the people of the counties affected by this line all the way across the state were that passionate about this.
I'm going to cut you off here.
Yep, I'm good. That's all I had to
simply because
say. I
wanna
appreciate y'all's time. Thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
We have a couple of questions. I'll start with the commissioner.
Sure. Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mr. Hinkie, you indicated that Mr. Wilcox was being paid by the company and then walked that back as speculation.
Sure. Yes.
Is the claim that anyone at Pulcinelli told somebody?
So that claim came from the landowners themselves.
But did you hear that?
I heard that directly from, are you talking about that if they spoke out publicly against it, that they wouldn't be paid the rest of the money?
Yes.
Yes, I heard that directly from the landowners. And two of them were direct.
But you did not hear that directly?
Yes. No, not from Pulcinelli White. I heard it directly from two landowners, and one of the landowners said another person said the same thing, if that makes sense.
But you have no firsthand knowledge of that?
No. No, not directly from Pulcinelli White, just directly from the landowners that dealt with Pulcinelli White.
Oh, sorry. One other clarifying question. The path of the line that you were discussing, that's on the high voltage direct current line, not the Tiger connector.
That is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. I was mainly saying that because, why should they be able to reroute the line when they won't be, they're not willing to reroute the line on my own property a few hundred feet. Why should they be allowed to reroute it counties and miles away from the original plan? That's why I say they should have to start over at square one instead of being just passed through.
Okay. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Actually, we have one question for you.
If you could get in touch with the individuals that supposedly told you that the law firm said that they could not come, could not badmouth, whatever was said, and if you could have them reach out to the Office of Public Counsel or the staff of the commission, that would be information that we would definitely want to have, and
Yes.
I would encourage that to happen.
I will greatly try, but I can also tell you that they're scared, to be honest. They're scared of the ramifications that'll happen to them. But I can't force them to be here, or I can't force them to do it, but I will try as hard as I can to do that.
Do you have any other questions?
Again, well, no, I don't have any further questions.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Henke. We had an outburst during that. I would ask that we not have any others. You may not agree with what somebody else says, but please respect their right to stand up here and give their opinion. This, I think I can get the last name. Glamp Spalding? Is there a Spalding last name?
Yes. Larry Spaulding, S-P-A-U-L-D-I-N.
I'm sorry, Mr. Spaulding, I had some difficulty reading your name. Would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
I got 2 or 3 questions, so won't be here long. Most everything since I've got older is all about money. And last time I read reports, solar and wind power wasn't efficient without government subsidizing. That's number 1 question. Number 2 question, just say for instance, I give $500 an acre of my land. Just say they did come along and offer me $15,000 an acre. Do you think capital gain tax, what would I end up with? And then we talked about Hubble. I never knew Hubble been in the concrete business. So good day. Anybody got any questions to ask me? Well, I got one other thing. If I hear what the reports are, I don't know that the Public Service Commission's got the authority to do it without changing the law. That's just me listening.
Okay, Mr. Spaulding, thank you for your comments. Jeffrey Martin.
Jeffrey Martin, Jeffreymartin.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
I do.
Please go ahead.
Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, my name is Jeffrey Martin, and I am the director of the Carroll County Chamber of Commerce, and I also work closely with the Carroll County Commissioners. And Carroll County has been a longtime supporter of the Grain Belt Express. The Grain Belt Express has already given back to our community a great deal. Last year, for example, they handed out dozens of grants to nonprofit organizations in our county. The Grain Belt has and continues to be a valuable part of our community. During and after the construction, the Grain Belt will be one of the largest property taxpayers in Carroll County. As with many counties of our size, we face budget issues. So having this added economic driver will make a big difference to our residents. Specifically, the added tax base will benefit our local schools greatly and will help pay for increased salaries to essential personnel like our sheriff. Additionally, many individuals and businesses in Carroll County struggle to afford the rising energy cost, which is why we also are in full support of the Tiger Connector. As someone who spends a lot of time dealing with businesses and working on finances, I can assure you that the Tiger Connector will be a benefit to our county and to Missouri. I'd like to thank you for your time, and if you have any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Martin, you just made it a point to discuss Grain Belt's contribution to property taxes, that they will be paying high property taxes. Some of the comments we've heard today from numerous people in the audience have been about the fact that they will be paying property taxes on land they can't use. Can you clarify that for me anyway?
I don't know all the specifics, but from my understanding, they will be contributing to property taxes. And during any construction phase, there will also be additional property taxes on any equipment and vehicles that are used in that construction through the county as they're stored there.
So annually, I pay property taxes. And some years I don't mind paying it, some years I do. Depends on what I'm paying it on. So are you saying that basically these property owners' property taxes will be offset by what Grainbelt is paying in their property taxes? Or do you know?
I-
You didn't come here as a tax professional.
That's
But
correct.
since you brought it up, I
Yes.
need to know what you know.
I don't know much more than my understanding is there will be some property tax benefit. So the specifics I really couldn't get too deep into.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for your comments, Mr. Martin. Roger Fisher?
Thank you for the opportunity to come before the commission.
Would you please state and spell your name for the record?
Roger, R-O-G-E-R, Fisher, F-I-S-C-H-E-R.
And would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
It is.
Please go ahead.
I come today, Lord, because I represent Callaway County. I am a Western District Commissioner. I left a meeting earlier today with the grace of the other two commissioners, and we all ask for you to deny the application by Greenbelt. The primary reason that, well, really singularly reason is we do not believe that they qualify for the use of eminent domain by not being able at our level and through the public meetings and information available to us publicly to justify in our mind necessity. So outside of the other two commissioners, I believe that most every other development of this size requires environmental studies. And we have yet to see any environmental studies, especially for the nature of the things that have stopped and are slowing down other projects in our county, right down to our own little bridges that we put across our county roads. We often have to have an environmental study, and that includes how it affects bats and birds of prey. We haven't seen that, and perhaps you have, but I cannot imagine that we would have anything that would transgress this many counties in the state of Missouri and not show an environmental study for each of the counties that it passes through. Another thing that I personally have a problem with is that if they were granted eminent domain by the Public Commission, the valuation of 1.5%. Only 20 months ago, most of the cropland in our area could have been bought for around $4,000, $4,500. 20 months later, after COVID, we're at $10,000 plus whatever you'll want to pay above that. It's often going for around $12,000 an acre now. So if you take that 1.5 times 20 months ago, you wouldn't even be at the value it is today. You would be right there. You'd be right there. It's not a premium. 1.5 is not a premium price to pay for acreage under duress of eminent domain. And with that, I'll take any questions.
I have no questions for you. Thank you for your comments. Brian Schneer.
I'm Brian Snar. It's B-R-I-A-N-S-C-H-N-A-R-R-E.
And Mr. Schnarr, would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
I do.
And what would you like to tell the commission today?
one of the things, I live in Boone County, but I do farm in Aldrine County, and this is crossing some farms that I do farm. One of the experiences I had, one of the elderly landladies that own a farm was called wanting to do surveying on her farm, was not given who or why or what they were surveying for. And she was quite upset about it, you know, and I had to calm her down and everything and make her feel better. And the only people I could think of that they'd be surveying would be this power line, because there's nothing else going on around it. So that kind of bothers me that they do things like that, especially with an elderly landowner. And she has a hard time understanding these kind of things, and it really upset her. And the other thing I like to do is, you know, this will be my 53rd crop year in this part of the country. You know, I've been farming all my life, but I've been here for 53 years. And my son and my daughter are going to be taking over, and hopefully they go another 50 years and so forth. And every year we have to farm around these structures and that. And the equipment is getting, like somebody else said, we got 120-foot booms, 60-foot planters and that. And it's an obstacle to go around. I don't know how many of you on the commission have much agricultural background, but it's an obstacle. And one of the things when we're putting herbicide on, we're putting on rates down to 5 ounces per acre. And when we start doubling them up, that doubles the rate, and that's when we start getting damages and that on our crops trying to go around these obstacles. That's a hindrance to our crop production. And one of the other things that bothered me when we had our meetings earlier with this company in Mexico here, and and one of these is right along the boundary line of a farm. And I asked them what kind of easement and everything, and they said 150 feet. And I said, well, do you put your poles in on the edge of it, right along the edge? They say, no, they put it 75 feet into the field, where there's no reason why they can't move it over and put it right on the boundary line or real close to it. So it becomes less of an obstacle, and they seem not to be willing to even discuss any other way. So this kind of bothers me, and what kind of negotiations you don't have if they get eminent domain. They need to be able to work with the farmers so we can work the rest of our lives. And to give you a hint how much these poles or structures cost, right today my son and daughter are working with Boone Electric, which is our cooperative. We're burying power lines into our farm so we can eliminate about a dozen poles to get them out of our fields. And it's costing us a lot of money to get that done. But it's something, you know, we know how much these here disrupt us and when we operate our fields. And that's not even considering what's coming in the future with autonomous tractors and so forth. And we use GPS and all that. And I'm a little bit concerned this high of voltage, whether our GPS signals will work that well around them. Okay. If you're going across the field and your tractor jumps 5 feet off and you have to get it back on the line, you've just messed up that pass through the field. You either have to turn around and straighten it out or do something. So that's what I wanted to bring up and head. And you got to think about, if this line ever quits being used, who's going to get rid of it? I have heard nothing about how to decommission this thing and how to remove the structures. And this always concerns me. Electric pole wouldn't one, you know, we got farm equipment, we can get rid of them, but when you're talking about a structure 200 feet tall and probably has 50, 75 yards of concrete under it, that's a different story. And that's what I wanted to bring forward here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schneer. Dennis Farmer? Dennis Farmer? Jay O'Bannon? maybe I'm reading wrong, Joey O'Bannon? Marilyn Smith.
I am Marilyn Smith, M-A-R-I-L-Y-N, S-M-I-T-H.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
I do. My son and I, can you hear me? My son and I farm in northwest Callaway County, and we farm about 2,500 acres. And the Grainbelt Express wants to send that Tiger connector diagonally across his farm, across two big row crop fields. But it's also going across a lot of our neighbors' farms. And some of them are here today and some of them aren't. But I think it's worth for you to hear their names. Dave and Pat Stimmy, Tim and Mary McMurtry, Patty and Dell Griffith, Jason and Mamie Smith, Bill and Annabelle Day, Dave and Mary Winkler, Carlos and Levita Cope, Michael and Jordan Christensen, Dustin Hudson, Dustin's here, and Todd and Amanda Vaughn. And then these lines are going to be going into the Ranger Power solar field from there on. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about farmers and how they feel about land. And I can do that by talking about my own experience. It took my family 32 years to pay for my land. 32 years of sacrifice, long hours, and working together to achieve our dream. It was not the end that we kept our eyes on. It was a journey along the way. It was a joy in purchasing land and cleaning it up and putting that first crop in. It was seeing the pride in my 8-year-old son's smile when he finally was allowed to drive the tractor during harvest. It was numerous meals brought to the fields to feed hungry workers and scores of fast trips to town to get parts. It was the opening of a fertilizer business to boost our income so we could continue moving forward. And there was sorrow along the way, but we kept moving anyway. That 8-year-old boy grew up and was thrust into the role his daddy held for so long. But we kept our eyes on the prize, and we found joy in a new generation of Smiths that learned how to raise cattle, grow corn, and drive tractors as well. And now Grainbelt Express wants to use our land, and I say no. There is no amount of money we would take to allow them to do that. I went to a meeting in Moberly a couple of weeks ago, and it was put on by the Department of Energy, and Grainbelt Express wants to borrow some money. They want a guaranteed federal loan. And I asked how much they were wanting to borrow, and I got a letter back from Angela Ryan, and this is what she says. Regarding your question pertaining to the potential federal loan guarantee amount, the Department of Energy is currently evaluating several financial, technical, environmental, and legal aspects of the application to determine the amount which would potentially be authorized if the federal loan guarantee is approved. Although we cannot provide an exact number at this time, the Department of Energy is authorized to provide up to 80% of eligible project cost. You have, I have a lot of power as the Public Service Commission. What I see is that Grainbelt Express wants to use our tax money as well as federal subsidies given through the Inflation Reduction Act of 2023 to build something that we do not want on our land. And I ask you not to give Grainbelt Express the power to use eminent domain. Make them bury their lines if they insist on doing this, and do that along existing roads. Questions?
No questions. Thank you for your
Okay,
comment.
thank you.
That was the last person I had signed up to speak today. Is there anybody else who would like to offer comments to the commission? Yes, ma'am. Would you please say and spell your name for the record?
It's Mary Snyder, M-A-R-Y-S-N-Y-D-E-R.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
I do.
And go ahead.
I come from a long line of farmers as well, and I don't know where you all live or what you do, but I hope you can understand how deeply rooted people are in their farming. If you live in town, do you want your neighbor's kids running through your yard, or do you want somebody to pull up a tractor and do something in your backyard? I mean, this is something very personal to these people, and I just ask that you decline and vote no. That's it. Any questions?
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else who wanted to offer comments to the commission today? Sir?
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Thompson, M-A-R-K-T-H-O-M-P-S-O-N.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
Yes, sir, I do.
Please go ahead.
I'm a commissioner from Adair County. I'm a farmer. I know what's going on. I was involved in the Mark Twain transmission line, and I learned a long time ago that you treat people like you want to be treated. Ameren, Illinois decided, since I was commissioner, if I don't give them permission, grant them permission to come through our county, they were going to sue me. What did they do? They sued me. And if I didn't give them permission to come through, do you want people to treat you like that? And I testified at the time during the Mark Twain transmission line to the Public Service Commission and shared with them the concerns that we had in Adair County in northeast Missouri about the adversarial relationship of a utility coming in. It wasn't, we weren't concerned about them coming in and using eminent domain, but treat people like you want to be treated. Public Service Commission, I know that you're serving the state and the public in this area. Last year, I was the Vice President of the County Commissioners Association of the state of Missouri. So I'm concerned about the people, not only in the counties here where the green belt's coming through, but the entire state of Missouri. We need to be very concerned. So I ask that you take a good, close look at this and deny the grain belt to come through here. You have any questions?
No questions. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who wanted to offer comments? Before you start testifying, could you come to the microphone? Would you please state and spell your name for the record?
Billy Dean Bates, B-I-L-L-Y-D-E-A-N-B-A-T-E-S.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
Yes, sir. And I was going to direct a question to the Hubble representative, Mr. Kelly. I worked with Hubble for many years. I started with A.B. Chance Company. He made the comment that they would produce electrical products for this company. He said he would potentially put on 60 some other employees. When I won't go into all of it, when I retired in July of 2020 because of my wife's health, I left there as a journeyman tool and die maker. I was a lead person. And when my wife passed away January of last year, they contacted Ben Strain, design engineer, and Larry Kelly, which was the plant engineer. They asked me to come back to work because they could not fill my position. And when I went back to work, I worked for them from February 28th till April 8th. And there was people, they were bleeding help because the company was not treating them correctly. They still are very understaffed, especially the positions that the welders, the machinist. You can't hire people off the street to do these jobs. I can't see where Mr. Kelly can fill your orders the way that you might want them filled. I own, as I said, I own a little bit of property in Callaway and a little bit in Audrey, my parents, when they passed away. I'm not a farmer. I tried doing livestock, but I have a great appreciation for people to do that. But I'm very much against your business. I don't see, I'm like the rest of them. It does not benefit us, and I'm afraid it's going to, anyway, I'll stop there. I appreciate your time. I just wanted to, I was hoping I could address Mr. Kelly because the company is having difficulty maintaining the level it used to be when it was ran years ago. But thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Bates.
Any questions?
Is there anybody else who wanted to offer comments to the commission? Sir. Would you please state and spell your name for the record?
Warren Stemme, W-A-R-R-E-N-S-T-E-M-M-E.
And would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
I do.
Please go ahead.
Thank you to the commissioners and staff for allowing me to make a few comments. Initially, I hadn't intended to speak today, but wanted to make a few points after hearing the testimony of everybody here. My family has owned property in Audrain and Boone County for about 60 years, so we're newcomers compared to some of the folks that have been here for many, many years longer. I do operate a farm row crop operation in St. Louis County, so I'm an endangered species, one of the few left farming in that area. And I have dealt with utilities and easements for my entire career, 30 plus years, sometimes on a daily basis. And when dealing with those utilities, I know where they're going, what the purpose is, and what to expect from them. I've learned a lot of things. How to grant an easement, so on and so forth, how to get compensated both for the easement, crop loss, whatever. When I look at this project, the connector, I see smoke and mirrors. They're initially saying they're going to bring power into Boone County, surrounding areas. But as one of the gentlemen earlier said, a former commissioner, that power can go both ways on this direct current line. I think the long term is they're going to take power generated from solar farms they're wanting to put up and take it out of the community, out of the area. Operating large farm equipment. We have Ameren UE, you all have probably heard of them. High voltage lines and towers on our property in St. Louis County. And it is an extreme pain in the butt to operate around them. I cannot upsize some of my equipment because of restrictions of where these towers are placed with respect to property lines and adjoining property owners, so on and so forth. And I will tell you, as one of the previous speakers had questioned, what happens to farm equipment? The larger pieces that we have GPS on it, global positioning systems. I will tell you from experience, and this happened to me last week, driving underneath one of these high power lines, the GPS system shut down. In fact, the machine stopped moving. So then you got to restart. So there are effects to the farm equipment. I think you should consider this an entirely new project because of the ability of this line to take power both ways. It's not, it may initially bring power into Boone County in this region, but ultimately it's going to take power out. So I will end there. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to try and answer them.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Is there anybody else who wanted to offer comments to the commission today? You've already offered comments to the commission, sir.
I've got a question.
We don't answer questions today. I saw somebody else in the back.
I'm an intervener. Am I allowed to say anything here?
Yes, come on up to the microphone.
Thank you. My name is Gary, G-A-R-Y, Riedel, R-I-E-D-E-L.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this local public hearing is the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please go ahead.
I only have one question. Well, you can't answer questions, but I want to make a point. Lynn Thompson, our Consolidated Electric Director, said at a meeting at the 4-H building last August that wind energy is intermittent energy. That is, it is not consistent. Wind comes and goes. Consequently, he also said that if their company, if Associated Electric bought power from wind energy, they would have to establish alternate sources of energy to compensate for that when the wind does not produce energy. So in other words, they would build a gas-fired power plant to come online when wind energy ceases to produce energy. Therefore, I'm just asking you to consider, how can that be efficient? How can that add $4.4 billion worth of savings to our electricity? Because they're going to have an investment there that will only kick on probably 25% of the time. We're going to be charged for that as well as whatever is paid for the wind energy. We consistently have some of the cheapest power in the country in Authorizing County and in Boone County. And I don't desire to see it be increased because we have to pay for an intermittent energy as well as a power source to replace it when the wind energy doesn't produce. Those are my comments. Anything else I would have said has been said. But I just thank you for giving me the opportunity to say that. It's a point that hasn't been raised today, and I think it's an important point. I don't see how this is going to produce $4.4 billion worth of energy savings. That's it. Any questions? I am opposed to this. Let's be clear about that. No questions?
No questions.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for your comment. Is there anybody else who wanted to offer comments? Okay.
Judge Clark, before we go off the record, could I make a clarification, just for the record?
What do you mean a clarification?
Regarding a statement about Polsinelli's position regarding participation in these matters?
No, I'd ask you to hold that.
Okay. And the reason I asked to make it now is just because we're going to have another one of these tomorrow. So I wanted to let the public know that what our position is.
I believe you specifically asked, or Polsinelli specifically asked if they could make a statement at the beginning, and we said, no, I'm going to stick by that. So no, we're not going to make any further statements at this point.
Okay. Many other parties have made statements today. And I just want to correct a misstatement that was on the record that I'm concerned about.
Why don't you just briefly go ahead, and if parties wish to move to have it struck, they can.
Okay, thank you. I just want to I just want it to be on the record that it is not, nor has it ever been, Grainbelt's position or Polsinelli's position that the easements have anything that would prevent participation in these proceedings or any statements about their experiences, positive or negative.
Okay, thank you. Again, I'm going to say no outbursts, please. Thank you. Okay, there were a lot of people here today. This went on for a while. I appreciate all the community involvement, the whole commission does, and I'd like to thank everyone who took time out of their day today to come and offer comments to the commission. The commission does take these comments very seriously, and they do consider them. These public hearings, and I know that some of you are disappointed that we didn't have more of them. We also have another virtual one tomorrow. These are our opportunity to hear from the community, and we appreciate that. It's our only opportunity outside of the evidentiary hearing, in which we hear only from the parties. If you get home today and you didn't make comments, but you realized that you wanted to, or you're talking to friends or neighbors and they want to offer comments to the commission, a local public hearing is not the only place to offer those comments. You can also offer comments by going to the Public Service Commission webpage. There's a link by which you can offer comments. You can also, I believe, offer comments. The Public Counsel has been generally pretty gracious if you contact their office about seeing that those comments get filed with the commission. Are you okay, sir? If you have further questions, you can obviously contact any of the company, the Office of the Public Counsel, or you can contact PSC Consumer Services at 1-800-392-4211. And with that, I will adjourn this hearing. Thank you very much. We will go off the record.